My dear friends, sometimes life becomes so silent that it feels like even God has forgotten your address. You pray, you cry, and nothing seems to move. But let me tell you something powerful. When God is about to bless a woman with something big, her life first gets uncomfortable, her path first gets lonely, and her soul first gets tested. So, if you're listening to this today and you feel like you're going through something heavy, don't lose heart, because that might just mean your blessing is on the way. God's biggest blessings often come wrapped in confusion, silence, and patience. When God is about to bless a woman with something big, the first thing He does is separate her from the noise. It may sound painful, but it's one of the most beautiful and necessary things that can happen in life. See, noise isn't always about sound. Sometimes it's the people, the chaos, the endless conversations that drain your energy, the situations that distract you from your purpose. When God sees that your heart is ready for something higher, He starts clearing your path. He begins to remove what no longer serves your growth, not to hurt you, but to make space for what's meant to come. Imagine you're tuning a radio. When there's too much static, you can't hear the right frequency clearly. You keep twisting the dial until the noise fades, and finally, you hear the beautiful music underneath. That's what God does in your life. He removes the static, the distractions, the unnecessary relationships, the draining environments, so you can hear the melody of His plan more clearly. It might feel like you're losing people, or that you're being isolated, but what's actually happening is alignment. You're being shifted into a frequency where only peace, clarity, and purpose exist. Think about it. When your phone battery is dying, you stop using unnecessary apps. You turn off notifications, you close tabs, you save power for what truly matters. That's what separation feels like. God is saying, you've been wasting too much energy on the wrong things. Now I'm putting you on power saving mode. He's helping you focus on what truly feeds your soul, not what drains it. In daily life, this can look like losing touch with friends you've known for years, feeling left out of circles you once belonged to, or realizing that you no longer enjoy the same conversations. You might even start feeling misunderstood because your priorities are shifting. But here's the truth. You're not being left behind, you're being set apart. There's a difference between isolation and preparation. Isolation feels empty, but preparation builds strength in silence. God's separation isn't rejection, it's redirection. I remember hearing about a woman who had always been surrounded by people. She loved social gatherings, loved helping everyone, and always said yes to everything. But one year, things began to change. Her friends drifted away, plans fell apart, and for the first time, she found herself alone on weekends. At first, she thought something was wrong with her. She thought maybe she had done something to deserve this silence. But later, she realized that it was during this quiet season that she rediscovered herself. She started reading, praying, exercising, and pursuing dreams she had buried for years. And do you know what happened? Within that same year, she launched a small business that became her passion and purpose. What she thought was loneliness was actually preparation for her breakthrough. This is how God works. He clears the room before He brings the blessing. Because not everyone can handle the new version of you. Some people are only meant for your past, not your future. If he doesn't remove them, their noise will drown out his instructions. So when people walk away, don't chase. When opportunities close, don't panic. When silence comes, don't rush to fill it. Sometimes, silence is the sound of God rearranging your life for something better. When you stop fighting against that separation and start embracing it, peace enters your heart. You begin to realize that solitude is not a punishment, but a privilege. It's a sacred moment where you start to hear yourself again, your thoughts, your dreams, your calling. It's the phase where you discover that you were never really alone, because God was with you all along, teaching you how to depend on Him rather than on the Word. The butterfly doesn't transform in the crowd, it transforms in the cocoon. Alone in darkness, in stillness. That's where wings are built. So, when you find yourself in a quiet season, don't despise it. Let it strengthen you. Let it teach you how to be comfortable in your own company. Let it reveal who truly deserves access to your energy and who doesn't. Because when your blessing arrives, you'll need discernment to protect it. And discernment only grows in silence. It's like pruning a tree. The gardener cuts away the extra branches not because he hates the tree, but because he knows that without pruning, the tree will never grow to its full potential. In the same way, God prunes your life. He cuts off unnecessary attachments, unfruitful habits, and draining relationships so that you can flourish. You may cry when the pruning happens, but when the fruit begins to grow, you'll understand why every cut was necessary. So the next time life starts feeling quieter, don't assume something's wrong. When people fade away, when plans fail, when the world around you slows down, that's not the end. It's the beginning of something sacred. That silence means God is at work. He's removing the noise so you can hear His direction. He's separating you from what's temporary to connect you with what's eternal. Remember, diamonds are formed in pressure and silence, not in noise and comfort. A woman who is being prepared for something big must go through seasons of silence, because that's where clarity and strength are born. So, if you're in that phase right now, where it's just you, your thoughts, and your faith, smile. You're not being forgotten, you're being prepared. One day, you'll look back and thank God for everyone who left, for everything that ended, for every night you sat alone, wondering what went wrong. Because that was the exact moment everything started going right. It was the season where God cleared the noise to make room for your blessing. And when that blessing arrives, you'll realize it wasn't that people left you. It's that God finally took center stage in your life. When God is about to bless a woman with something big, she begins to feel a deep restlessness in her spirit. It's not anxiety. It's not impatience. It's something greater. It's that quiet tug from within that says, there's more to your life than this. It's that unexplainable feeling that something bigger is waiting for you just beyond what you can see. You wake up in the morning, and though your life may look fine from the outside, your soul whispers, "This isn't where I meant to stop." That's not a random emotion, that's a divine signal. This restlessness often begins gently, a subtle dissatisfaction with what once made you happy, Maybe you used to love your job, but now you feel drained by it. Maybe your friendships no longer bring you joy, or the routines that once gave you comfort now feel suffocating. You can't quite explain it, but deep down, you know you've outgrown something, and that's the truth. You're no longer the same person you were. God is expanding your capacity, preparing your heart for something that matches your growth. Think about how a bird's wings itch before it takes its first flight. The nest that once felt safe starts to feel too small. The branches that once held it begin to bend under its weight. That's not the bird being ungrateful, that's growth. The bird doesn't belong in the nest forever. It was born to fly. And in the same way, when God wants to lift you higher, He first makes your comfort zone uncomfortable. The restlessness you feel is your wings getting ready to unfold. In everyday life, this often shows up as a deep inner stirring, a voice that says, I'm meant for something more meaningful. You might start questioning your habits, your relationships, your job, even your environment. Things you once tolerated begin to irritate you, not because they're bad, but because they're no longer aligned with where you're going. It's like your soul starts rejecting anything that doesn't feed your purpose. There's a story I once heard about a woman who worked at a company for 10 years. She was good at her job, respected, and well liked. But one day, she started to feel this unshakable emptiness. She didn't understand it at first. After all, everything looked fine on paper. But that inner voice kept whispering that she was meant for more. So she prayed for clarity. And over time, small signs began to appear. Her interest shifted, new ideas started to form, and opportunities she never noticed before started coming her way. She eventually took a bold step, left her job, and started her own business that now impacts thousands of lives. She often says, that restlessness was God pushing me toward my purpose. And that's how it works. When your spirit starts stirring, it's God's way of saying, you've learned what you needed to learn here. Now it's time to move forward. But because change is uncomfortable, most people ignore that feeling. They silence it with distractions, scrolling on their phones, staying busy, or convincing themselves that they should just be grateful for what they have. Gratitude is important, yes, but gratitude doesn't mean settling. You can be grateful for where you are and still know you're meant for more. The problem is, when you ignore that divine restlessness, life finds ways to remind you. You might start feeling constantly tired, emotionally drained, or uninspired. You might even face situations that push you out of your comfort zone. A sudden change at work, a relationship ending, or an unexpected challenge. That's not life being cruel, that's life shaking you awake. It's God saying, you wouldn't move unless I made you uncomfortable. Have you ever noticed how a seed must break before a plant can grow? The shell cracks, the roots push downward, and only then does the sprout rise toward the light. That breaking is necessary for blooming. The same happens in our lives. Restlessness is the cracking of your old shell, the breaking of what once contained you. You're being stretched, not to hurt you, but to prepare you to hold more. Sometimes you'll feel confused during this phase because the people around you might not understand. They'll say, why aren't you happy? You have everything. but they don't hear what your soul hears. They don't feel what your spirit feels. Because this calling is personal, it's between you and God. It's not visible to others yet, but it's very real inside you. And if you trust that feeling, if you lean into that restlessness instead of running from it, you'll start to see miracles unfold. You'll notice small shifts. Your mindset changes, your desires refine, your energy begins to attract new opportunities. You'll start meeting people who inspire you, reading things that awaken you, and doing things that make your heart come alive again. That's when you realize that this restlessness wasn't a curse. It was a blessing. So when that uneasiness starts rising inside you, don't panic. You're not lost. You're evolving. Don't mistake the discomfort of growth for the pain of failure. You're being pulled toward your next chapter, and it's going to require a higher version of you. You'll need more courage, more faith, and more self-belief. And that's exactly what God is building in you during this phase. Trust that feeling inside your heart. That's not confusion, it's calling. That restlessness is heaven's signal saying, your season is changing. You might not know where you're going yet, but you don't have to. All you need is the courage to take the first step. Because when you move with faith, even the smallest step forward will open doors you never imagined existed. So if your soul feels unsettled today, smile a little, because that means something extraordinary is on its way. God is preparing you for something that will finally make sense of all your struggles, all your waiting, and all your prayers. The restlessness you feel is not a sign of something missing. It's a sign that something greater is coming. When God is about to bless a woman with something big, she starts craving peace more than anything else. Not attention, not validation, not recognition, just peace. She reaches a point in life where drama, gossip, chaos, and meaningless arguments no longer excite her. She doesn't want noise, she wants calm. She doesn't chase to be understood, she just wants to be left in peace. That's not her becoming cold or distant. That's her becoming wise. She's realizing that peace is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's the sign that her soul is maturing, that she's outgrown the chaos she once tolerated. This shift often begins subtly. She might stop responding to every argument. She might start saying no more often. She might choose to stay home. Instead of going out to places that drain her energy, people around her might even say, "You've changed," and she'll smile quietly because she knows, yes, she has. She's not who she used to be. She's no longer seeking to prove her worth. She's not interested in winning battles that lead nowhere. What she's seeking now is peace, because peace feels like freedom. When you've gone through pain, disappointment, or heartbreak, you begin to realize that nothing in this world compares to the feeling of peace. You can have money, success, and admiration, but if you don't have peace, you have nothing. That's why when God starts preparing you for a big blessing, He teaches you to protect your peace first. He makes you walk away from situations that once consumed your spirit. He removes people who thrive on negativity. He silences your surroundings so you can finally listen to yourself again. Imagine your mind like a cup of muddy water. When it's constantly shaken by stress and conflict, it stays cloudy. But when it's still, when it's left undisturbed, All the dirt settles at the bottom, and the water becomes clear. That's what peace does. It brings clarity, it helps you see life as it truly is, and that's what God wants for you before He blesses you. A clear heart, a calm mind, and a quiet spirit. In daily life, this can look like walking away from relationships that only bring pain, setting boundaries with friends who constantly drain you, or leaving environments that no longer align with your values. It's not that you've become selfish, you've just learned that you cannot pour from an empty cup. You've realized that your peace is sacred, and anything that costs you that peace is too expensive. There was a time when you might have argued back when someone disrespected you, or you'd cry when someone didn't value your worth. But now, you simply smile, stay silent, and walk away. Not because you're weak, but because you've understood that your reaction is a form of energy, and you refuse to waste it on things that don't matter. That's what true strength looks like. It's not about fighting every battle. It's about knowing which battles are worth your time. I once heard about a woman who used to be easily triggered by everything: office politics, relationship drama, family conflicts. She would constantly feel exhausted because her peace was always in someone else's hands. But after a painful heartbreak and a long period of reflection, she began to change. She started journaling, meditating, spending time alone, and saying no to things that didn't feel right. People around her thought she was isolating herself, but in reality she was healing. Over time, she became calmer, happier, and lighter. She said, "When I started protecting my peace, I started finding myself." That's exactly what happens when you start valuing your peace. You start meeting the version of yourself that God always intended you to be. Peace doesn't mean life becomes perfect. It means you stop letting imperfection disturb your inner world. You can't control how others act, but you can control how you respond. You can't always avoid storms, but you can learn to stay calm in the rain. When peace lives within you, external chaos loses its power. You begin to smile through confusion, stay gentle in conflict, and remain steady in uncertainty. That's when you know you're aligned with something divine. Peace is the foundation of all blessings. Without it, even the best opportunities will feel heavy. That's why God teaches you to find peace before He multiplies your blessings, because only a peaceful heart can handle abundance. If you're restless, bitter, or easily shaken, blessings can slip through your fingers. But when you're peaceful, you can hold them with grace and gratitude. When you start prioritizing peace, your entire energy shifts. You attract calmer situations, kinder people, and better opportunities. The universe begins to mirror your inner state. You stop chasing and start receiving. You stop forcing and start flowing. You stop doubting and start trusting. That's when miracles begin to unfold naturally. You might lose some people along the way. Those who feed on drama won't like your calmness. Those who live in chaos will find your peace intimidating. That's okay. Let them go. Your peace is not meant to make everyone comfortable. It's meant to make you whole. One of the greatest signs that God is about to elevate you is when you start choosing peace over everything else. Because peace means you've learned your worth. It means you no longer beg for love. You no longer fight for attention. And you no longer let others disturb your joy. You realize that not everything deserves a reaction, not every situation needs an explanation, and not every person deserves access to your energy. So, if you've been feeling detached lately, if you've been craving silence, solitude, and stillness, don't mistake it for loneliness. That's your spirit healing. That's God preparing you. You're being cleansed of noise so that when your blessing arrives, you'll receive it with a calm, grateful, and grounded heart. Peace is power. Peace is purpose. Peace is the sign that you're stepping into the woman you were always meant to become. When you protect your peace, you protect your destiny, and that's when God smiles, because He knows you're ready for the blessing that's about to unfold. When God is about to bless a woman with something big, unexpected doors begin to open, opportunities appear out of nowhere, the right people show up at the right time, things that once seemed impossible suddenly start aligning, as if the entire universe has rearranged itself to favor her. It feels magical, but it's not magic. It's divine timing. It's the moment when all the silent prayers, all the lonely nights, all the tears that fell in secret finally start to make sense. What she couldn't see then becomes clear now. Every delay, every rejection, every waiting season was never wasted. It was preparation for this moment of breakthrough. When blessings start unfolding, they often don't come in the way you expect. Sometimes the path that looks like an ending turns out to be the beginning of everything you've prayed for. God works in ways that confuse the mind but comfort the soul. He doesn't show you the full plan, He just opens one door at a time. That's why faith is so important. You might not know where that open door leads, but your heart will feel the pull. You'll know it's right because it brings a deep sense of peace, even if it's unfamiliar. In daily life, this can look like a surprise job offer, an unexpected message, a chance encounter with someone who completely changes your direction, or a random opportunity that aligns perfectly with your dreams. It could even be a closed door that pushes you toward a better one. Sometimes, what looks like rejection is really God redirecting you toward the door that was meant for you all along. There's a story about a woman who spent months applying for her dream job. She faced rejection after rejection until she almost gave up. One day, she received a call for an interview she hadn't even applied for. Confused but curious, she went. That meeting turned into a job offer, and not just any job. It was far better than anything she had imagined. Later, she found out her name had been recommended by someone she met briefly at a seminar months earlier. That's how God works, quietly, behind the scenes, setting up moments that connect at the perfect time. When God begins to open doors, you'll notice something else too. You'll feel undeserving and overwhelmed. You'll wonder, why now? Why me? That humility is part of the blessing. God doesn't open doors because you've earned them. He opens them because you've been faithful. You stayed patient when everything was falling apart. You kept believing when there was no visible reason to. You didn't give up when it would have been easier to walk away. And now, He's honoring your faith. These blessings come with a rhythm, slowly at first, then all at once. One thing leads to another, and you'll realize how every disappointment, every waiting season, and every unanswered prayer was connected to this unfolding moment. The delay wasn't denial, it was divine alignment. If things had happened earlier, you might not have been ready. But now, your spirit, your mindset, your character, they're all prepared to carry the weight of the blessing. Think about how a seed grows underground. For months, nothing seems to happen. You water it, nurture it, and yet the surface looks the same. But beneath the soil, roots are forming. The seed is strengthening itself, preparing to rise. And one day, without warning, it breaks through the ground and reaches for the light. That's how God's timing works. When the roots of your faith are deep enough, He lets your blessings bloom suddenly. When unexpected doors open, it's important to walk through them with courage. Sometimes, blessings come disguised as challenges. They stretch you, test you, and push you to grow. But that's how you know they're from God. Because they don't come to harm you, they come to shape you. They require faith, humility, and trust. God doesn't just open doors to give you comfort, He opens them to help you evolve into the person who can sustain what's on the other side. I remember hearing about a woman who wanted to start her own business. For years, she hesitated because she feared failure. Then one day, she was unexpectedly laid off. It felt like the worst moment of her life, but in that very storm, a new door opened. She decided to use her savings to start her business, and within a year, it flourished beyond her imagination. She once said, "Losing that job was the best thing that ever happened to me because it pushed me through a door I never would have opened on my own." That's how blessings often appear, disguised as disruptions. When these divine openings happen, gratitude becomes your greatest power. The more thankful you are for the small blessings, the more God multiplies them. Gratitude keeps your heart aligned with humility, and humility keeps the door open for even greater miracles. What's beautiful about divine timing is that it never arrives early or late. It shows up exactly when you're ready. And when it does, you'll realize that all along you were being guided. Every no was protecting you from something smaller. Every delay was aligning you with something greater. Every struggle was building the strength you'd need to step confidently into your new season.